y'all, Gramma here. This morning I looked in my refrigerator and I noticed that I knew I had a gallon of milk in the refrigerator, but I noticed that I was within a week of getting ready or getting to the expiration date on the milk, and I wasn't even half through that gallon of milk. And I got to thinking, now I wonder if you can can milk. My freezers are full. I know you can freeze milk, but can you can milk? You can buy canned milk products in the grocery. You can buy canned goat's milk. You can buy evaporated milk. You can buy all kinds of canned milk products. Can you can milk yourself if you've got a pressure canner? So I got on the computer and I looked, and the answer is yes, you can milk. So what I did is I put a little bit of the milk that was in my refrigerator in a pan on the stove, brought it up to where it was simmering, and just to see if it was going to clabber. Is it going to clot? Well, you know what I mean. Is it going to clump up? Because once it gets close to being expired, it's before it starts to spoil, you can make cheese with it essentially. And I didn't want to waste all of this milk making cheese that I didn't intend to make. But of course I could have. I wanted to can my milk because I wanted to be able to save it to use cooking or using whatever I wanted to do. I mean, I could have moved some stuff out of the freezer and frozen the milk. I suppose I could have canned something that was in the freezer to make room for the milk. I didn't want to do that. So I discovered that the milk that I had was fine. What is it? Clot? Is that the word? Whatever, it didn't do it. And it was okay, so I went ahead and canned the milk that I had in the refrigerator. And I went back to the grocery and I bought 2 more gallons of milk. And I have already today canned a dozen pint jars of milk, and I have 8 more jars to put in my canner. Well, I sat down waiting for the water in my canner to cool back down again because the milk I had was cold. And went online and I found a live chat. And while I was on the live chat, I mentioned that I had canned this milk. And somebody in the chat said, why don't you do a video on that? Because, I don't know, I've never seen a video on canning milk before. So that's what I'm doing. Y'all, there's nothing to it. All you do is you pour your milk in a jar. In your canning jars, put the lid on your jar. If you've ever done pressure canning before, there's nothing to it. And I don't have anything to show because I've already got everything already in the jar. You wipe the tops of the jars down. Be sure that there's not any nicks in the top of the jars. There's no oil, there's no grease, there's no liquid. The top of the jar is completely dry. You put your clean lid on. Now this is pressure canning, so you don't need to bring the lids up to heat because the heat in the canner will seal it. It's easy as pie. Really, really easy. Okay? Let's do this. So let me show you about the jars that I've already canned today. I'm going to take this camera off of the tripod. It'll be easier. I'll put it back on it in a minute. Okay. Here are the jars of milk. You see, let's get, maybe the light will be better. The light is better here, you can see. So there's the dozen jars of milk that I've canned today. Just milk. And it's fine, see that? And it turns a little tan. It's not as, let's compare this jar that I have already canned to one that I haven't canned yet and see if there's a change in color. Is there a difference in color? If there is, there's not very much difference. But in this case, you can see that, can you see the dimple down here on the top? That's sealed, and that one's not sealed. See? So this one has been canned, this one has not been canned. Now another thing I did, you can see this. I put these jars of milk in a dish pan with warm water because these were cold. I had just gotten them from the freezer, I had just gotten these from the refrigerator section of the grocery, and the milk was cold. I've already canned 1 batch of milk in my canner, and the water is still hot. Now I suppose I could have poured out the water and started with cold water again, but I thought it was easier just to warm up my jars. So all I'm going to do in this case Now these are not hot, so I can just lift them up with my hand. There you go. Bring them over here. Put that in there, and that's fine. And I've got 7 more to go. So let me do this. There's 2. Okay, there's 8 pint jars of milk in my canner at this point. Now the next thing I'm going to do is put the lid on. Now, one thing, this is a Presto canner. One thing I want you to notice, you can see up here, right there. Do you see that? Right there, there is a mark, a V. And over here on the handle, right there, see there's a V right there on the handle. What you do is you line up those 2 marks. Where is it? You line up these 2 marks. Okay. And then you squeeze these together, and it's stiff. It's going to take me 2 hands. I'm going to have to put this down. Okay. So then you twist them together so they're lined up like that. And now this mark is over here to the side. You can't see that one now. So that's closed. Now all I have to do now is turn on the burner. Turn it all the way on. Fire's on. I'm just going to wait. So we're going to wait until the steam starts coming out, and then I'll get back with you. Okay, y'all, can you see? Let me see if I can get around here so you can actually see the steam coming up. There you go. Maybe you can see it now. So the steam is just pouring out of this vent. And it has been for a couple of minutes. So I'm going to set my timer for 8 minutes, because I know it's been going at least, let's sit up here, my timer's up there. I'll do 8 minutes. And start it. So when the timer goes off, I will put this weight over the vent right there. Not going to do it right now. This one is set for 10 pounds of pressure. Now, if you lived in another area, just here on the stove, there's another ring that goes on it. This light is so bad. I'll put it up here. Maybe the light's better there. There we go. You can see it better there. So, if you lived in another part of the country, when it's mountainous, I'm not exactly sure what the altitude needs to be. Over 1,000 feet, maybe? I can't remember. You need to check with this, because I'm not familiar with that, because I don't live there. But there's another ring like that is going to go on top of here and all the way down, and that will raise this to measure 15 pounds of pressure. You would need to add this if you live at that altitude, taking that one off for me. Now, something else you might have. This weight came with an old pressure cooker. It's a Miramatic pressure cooker that belonged to my mother. And this does all 3 different weights. You can see this down here. There you go. See where that's marked 5? Here, there's 10. There's 10. And if you turn it around this way, there's 15. If you have something like this, you don't need to change the rings on it. This will do all 3 of the weights. But this is the one that came with my pressure cooker, so that's what I'm going to use. And I say pressure cooker, this is a pressure canner. When I put the ring, when I put the weight on the vent, that's going to pop up. And that will seal this. And at that point, then the pressure will start rising. So we still have 5 minutes left on the timer. Alright, y'all. The timer's going off. So, and you can see this, really stick. You see the steam? Man, that is really pouring out of there. Turn off the timer. And I'm just going to put this on here. Like that. Now, what should happen is that, see, did you see that pop up? Okay, so that popped up. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to watch that pressure gauge. And when the pressure gauge, or when the needle in the pressure gauge reaches 10 up here at the top, then I'm going to turn this off. Now, this is different. Now, some things need to pressure can, say, 20 minutes. Other things, pressure can, 40 minutes. Meat needs to pressure can for a pint jar, 75 minutes. That's an hour and 15 minutes. A quart jar is an hour and a half. So depending on what the material is, what the food is that you're canning, the time of the canning is going to be different. For this milk, it's barely on at all. You bring it up to pressure and then you turn it back off again and let the vent close. Let the pressure reduce until you can open it up safely again. And at that point, your milk is done. That's all there is to it. I'll be back with you in a fraction of a second. Okay, y'all. See, this pressure is almost up to 10. It'll be just a few more minutes. And while we're watching this, let me show you this. Over here, you can see down under there, its weight is starting to jiggle just a tiny bit. Not much. You'll be able to see some steam coming out from under it. That's better light right there. But you can just barely see how much is happening. When the needle gets up to 10 on the gauge, you're going to see the weight. So the weight right here is going to start jiggling. And I'm starting to hear it just a little bit. It's almost there. Yeah. Can you see the weight is starting to, can you hear it? Above the bubbling inside, you should start seeing this starting to shake, starting to jiggle a little bit. And when this is happening, look at this. Look at the weight on this gauge. We are right almost at 10 pounds. We're about 9 pounds at this point. And this is why some of the pressure cookers that you find, or some of the pressure canners, don't have a pressure gauge. All you have is just the weight, but you can tell when it reaches the pressure by what this is doing right now. So don't think that you have to have this pressure gauge on here. Because you see that? That rocking of this weight is telling me that I am at 10 pounds. And if you look at this, I'm right at 10 pounds. I'm going to let it get just a little bit more, and then I will turn the heat off. Okay, see that? It is fully on 10 pounds. Let me show you back here at the back again. That weight back there is up, or the vent is in the up position, and you don't see any steam coming up out of it now. See that? So let's turn. Okay, y'all, this is the time that I'm making the change. So the pressure canner has come up to 10 pounds of pressure. What you do now is set your timer again. And we're going to do it for 10 more minutes. So after the pressure canner comes up to 10 pounds of pressure, process it, leave it processing for 10 minutes before you turn off the burner. That's the only change. The reason I'm changing this, after I had published the video the other day, one of my subscribers commented that they had been using a protocol or procedure published by Mother Earth News since the 1980s, and have had no problems canning milk. However, the instructions that I had said to turn it off immediately after it reached 10 pounds of pressure, and that might not be enough. I suspect that it probably is, but we don't want to take any chances. It's too important. Our health is too important. So let's go ahead and process for 10 minutes and go forward. The link to the Mother Earth News article is in the comment box below. So check it out there, and you can read it if you want to. Okay? All right. So let's turn this off. Back in here. And turn my dial into that position. The fire's off. And now it's a waiting game again. I will be back with you in another fraction of a second. Okay, y'all, look at this. The pressure is almost dropped down to 0. Not quite. It's getting there. And if you notice, it's not quite at 0. And let's look back here. It's not quite at 0, and that is still up. See that? So we know it's not time to take the top off yet. When that goes down, then it'll be okay to take the top off. But not yet. Even though the pressure is dropped down where it's showing 0 on this gauge. See that? So you can't trust this gauge. Well, you can trust the gauge, but that does not mean that the pressure inside it is actually completely empty. Look at this. I'm going to show you something else. This. Hear that? There's still pressure in there. When this button goes down, we'll know it's time to take the top off. But not until that goes down. It's one of those very important safety measures. I think we're there now. The needle's on 0, and if we come around here to the back, we notice that that vent button is down. So it's safe to open this now. Now I'm going to have to put the camera down because it's going to take me 2 hands to do this. Let me get this open. And, well, first of all, I can show you that there is no pressure in here because when I touch this, move it, do you hear any sound besides the click click? No. I can take it off and nothing comes out of there. So it's perfectly safe to open. I've moved the handles over where they're not aligned anymore. And again, those 2 marks are lining up. See that right there? So we know it's safe to take the top off now. And there we are. There's the cans in there. Looks like none of them are broken. You can see, I don't know if you can see the steam rising, but there is steam rising. And one thing I could not show you because I didn't have my camera on the tripod. My tripod broke as I was recording this video, so I have this in hand now. In fact, while I've been waiting for the pressure to come down, I've been on Amazon looking for a new tripod. So I could not show you me taking the top off this. However, one thing to note, when you take the top off of it, you should open it away from your face because there will still be some steam in this and you don't want the steam to come out onto your face. So when you open up the lid, you be sure that it's tilted away from your face and not toward your face. That's the most important safety thing I can tell you right now. This is the reverse of what you saw before. So I'm going to reach down in here. Ooh. Well, you see what I mean about the steam? I can do this without getting steam on it. Let's see. Let's get this one over here. Reach in here and lift this up. And when you lift it up, you lift it straight up and over. We don't want it to hit the side of that. So we're going to bring it over here and sit it down. But that's all there is to it. The main thing, get this out of the way so the steam doesn't get on it again, and you can see, lift in here and hold this right here at the ring, right below the ring, and lift it straight up and out, all the way up, and then move it over. And that's all there is to it. And these are done. So there they are, all 8. Whoop, you hear them? There they go, they're starting to seal. And that's all there is to it. Just going to leave them there, leave them to cool. And then we'll take the rings off of them. We need to leave them out on the counter overnight before we remove the rings. And they should be ready to store away, and I will have milk for quite a long time. Since I live here by myself and don't drink milk, I use milk for cooking and in my coffee. And this milk should last me a very, very long time. So I hope you've learned something from this. And learn that yes, you can milk. It can be done. It's not hard at all. All you need is a pressure canner and the right jars and lids, and you're set to go. So bye, y'all. See you next time.